Few days ago, a single image from Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter triggered chaos inside NASA's mission control. The photo, quietly uploaded, then deleted within minutes, wasn't supposed to exist. But before it vanished, astronomers across the world had already downloaded it, and what they found has left even the most seasoned scientists speechless. Because this wasn't just another snapshot of 3I Atlas, the mysterious interstellar object that swept past Mars on October 3, 2025. This was something far more disturbing. The photo shows a bright cylindrical structure glowing against the Martian sky, sharp, symmetrical, metallic. Within hours, speculation erupted online. Was this the first ever close-up of 3I Atlas, or had the orbiter captured something else entirely, something not supposed to be there? At first, NASA dismissed the viral image as a camera artifact, a trick caused by long exposure. But when the European Space Agency and even Mars Perseverance data analysts confirmed seeing the same anomaly from different angles, silence fell. No more updates, no new data, and here's where things get strange. When independent researchers compared the leaked frame with NASA's official trajectory of 3I Atlas, the match was perfect. The object's position aligned within 0.02 degrees of the comet's projected path. But the shape didn't match anything natural. Not ice, not dust. Its reflection pattern looked engineered. A metallic spectrum signature, peaking at the same frequencies as titanium and aluminum alloys, appeared across multiple analyses. That's not how comets behave. That's how spacecraft reflect light. By sunrise, Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb had already seen the image. His message was short and chilling. If this is real, we're not looking at a comet anymore. Within hours, NASA's official 3I Atlas page went down. ESA's public tracker followed, all mission data to Mars orbiters silenced. Whatever that image showed, it wasn't meant for us to see, and now astronomers are racing to uncover whether the Perseverance rover, sitting just 60 million kilometers below the flyby, might have captured the same mysterious object. If that's true, then what Mars saw tonight might change everything we know about 3I Atlas, and what's traveling with it. As NASA scrambled to contain the leak, another clue quietly surfaced. Not from an orbiting satellite this time, but from the surface of Mars itself. Just 24 hours after the image vanished, independent astronomers began sifting through raw Perseverance rover files on NASA's open database. And buried deep inside a folder labeled Sol 1634 Nightcam Sequence, they found something unusual. It was faint. A shimmering trail of light cutting diagonally across the Martian sky, recorded over a 9-minute exposure. At first, most assumed it was an artifact, maybe a cosmic ray hit. But when the frames were stacked and stabilized, a clear cylindrical silhouette began to emerge, glowing from both ends, moving at a speed consistent with 3I Atlas's approach vector. This wasn't coincidence, it was confirmation. Within hours, two well-known data analysts, Stefan Burns and Simeon Schmaus, published their findings online. Both had independently traced the object's path and proved that it was visible in at least 20 sequential images from Perseverance's camera. And the moment their post went live, NASA's Mars data portal went down. No explanation, no update. Even ESA's ExoMars team suddenly postponed their nightly imaging window, citing safety interference from solar radiation. But there was no solar storm. Space weather was calm. Something else had triggered the blackout. Behind the scenes, astronomers at the European Space Operations Center confirmed a data relay interruption between the Trace Gas Orbiter and Earth's Deep Space Network. The transmission cut out just minutes after Perseverance's anomaly timestamp. Coincidence or censorship? Meanwhile, amateur observers on Earth began reporting something extraordinary. A faint luminescent trail near Mars' orbit, glowing slightly green in long-exposure photographs. That glow shouldn't have been visible from this distance. It meant that whatever surrounded 3I Atlas was highly reflective, possibly metallic, and reacting with sunlight in a way no natural comet tail ever could. And here's where things get truly strange. Infrared data captured by the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter's CRISM instrument showed brief thermal spikes near the object. Short bursts of heat, then nothing. Almost like controlled energy pulses. NASA's public release never mentioned it, but one leak from an internal lab email described the data as energetic behavior inconsistent with passive cometary activity. By this point, silence had become the loudest sound coming from NASA. No tweets, no press briefings, not even a correction. The agency that usually posts every pixel from Mars went completely dark. And that's when scientists began asking the question that no one at NASA wanted to hear. If the orbiter and the rover both captured it, what exactly was orbiting 3I Atlas when it passed Mars? Because every piece of data, every reflection, every pulse, every missing frame now hinted at the same impossible truth. Whatever this object is, it's not just passing through, it's doing something. Inside NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, tension was building. Every hour since the Mars image leak, new fragments of data trickled in. Corrupted telemetry logs, missing timestamps, and one thing that made no sense at all: electromagnetic noise that didn't belong there. These weren't cosmic rays or solar interference. The signals were rhythmic, pulsing in sequences of 7 and 11-second intervals, repeating over and over. And here's what startled the engineers. The burst coincided exactly with the time 3I Atlas passed behind Mars, invisible from Earth's direct line of sight. Someone inside JPL leaked the initial signal graph to an internal forum. Within hours, screenshots appeared on encrypted astronomy channels, before NASA forced a full takedown. But not before independent analysts decoded part of the waveform. What they found sent shivers through the research community. The frequency bands weren't random. They formed a structured harmonic pattern, similar to what you'd expect from digital modulation, the kind used in encoded communication. Whatever caused those pulses wasn't background noise, it was organized. At Harvard's Center for Astrophysics, Dr. Avi Loeb and his small research team were already comparing the leaked Mars signal to archived transmissions from interstellar sources. Shockingly, they found a faint match. The same rhythmic intervals appeared in an old 1977 deep space signal known as Voyager Anomaly Burst 9. That signal had never been explained. Now, nearly 5 decades later, it had returned. Stronger, cleaner, and seemingly coming from the vicinity of 3I Atlas. Meanwhile, on Mars, the ExoMars Trace Gas Orbiter began behaving erratically. Its onboard magnetometer, designed to detect subtle field shifts in Mars' atmosphere, started recording sudden spikes, thousands of times stronger than expected. Then, as the comet passed beyond Mars' limb, the readings dropped to zero. It was as if the planet itself had exhaled. NASA's internal briefing labeled the event as temporary magnetic disturbance caused by cometary interaction. But buried within the same report was a single redacted paragraph titled, "Localized source of electromagnetic origin, pending verification." And here's where things took an even darker turn. For 48 hours after the flyby, the Perseverance rover's communications array began experiencing what NASA engineers described as directional interference. Its signals were being drowned by something, not static, not solar wind, but focused pulses aimed straight at the relay satellite. In other words, something near Mars was transmitting. By the time word reached the public, NASA had already shut down several live feeds, citing system maintenance. But those who saw the raw logs before they disappeared say it was clear. The signals didn't fade naturally, they were jammed. And now the question haunting every scientist following the event: was 3I Atlas just reacting to sunlight and magnetic fields? Or was it responding to something? By the 4th day after the leak, NASA's silence had turned deafening. No press briefings, no telemetry updates, not even the usual routine maintenance posts that usually calm the public. But in Europe, something slipped. A junior analyst inside ESA's operations center accidentally sent a status packet to an unsecured network. It contained a short line of metadata from James Webb Space Telescope, 3 characters long, OBJ2. At first glance, it looked meaningless. But OBJ2 wasn't part of any catalog observation sequence. Harvard's astrophysics team cross-checked Webb's schedule. The tag was inserted manually, just hours after the Mars flyby. That meant Webb had locked onto something new, something outside the planned trajectory of 3I Atlas. Within hours, a secure video call linked researchers from Harvard ESA and Japan's Subaru Observatory. Their faces were dimly lit by monitor glow, and every one of them stared at the same false color frame Webb had quietly transmitted before NASA pulled the plug. It showed 3I Atlas just beyond Mars's orbit, its nucleus blurred behind a veil of reflective gas. But trailing behind it, faint and symmetrical, were 2 smaller objects. They weren't natural clumps of dust. They were uniform, geometric, almost twin silhouettes rotating in perfect opposition. When the image leaked, NASA's internal servers went into lockdown. Access keys revoked, IPs blocked, even contractor logins were disabled for 12 hours. According to one insider, the agency went dark, like something bigger than protocol had just happened. Meanwhile, the Harvard team began enhancing the frame. Using spectral filters, they isolated a sharp metallic signature, titanium alloy mixed with an unknown element absorbing nearly all infrared light. The reflectivity ratios matched none of the known asteroids or comet materials in any NASA database. The conclusion was simple and terrifying. Whatever followed 3I Atlas was built, not born. Avi Loeb described it bluntly during a private debrief. If it's not debris and it's maintaining position, then it's under control. But control by what or whom, no one could answer. Across the Atlantic, a French telemetry station detected a faint signal echo on the same frequency band Webb had used to transmit its image. The echo came from the object's direction, not toward it. It was as if something out there had answered Webb's gaze. By now, both NASA and ESA had shut down public data portals. Journalists found only 403 forbidden messages where raw image libraries once stood. Yet fragments kept appearing online, mirrored, decrypted, reposted in hours. Each one revealed a bit more of the truth. A triangular reflection grid forming behind 3I Atlas, patterns too deliberate to dismiss. And while the agencies held their silence, observatories in Chile began picking up strange fluctuations in the comet's tail brightness, rhythmic flashes repeating every 23 minutes. The timing matched the communication bursts Mars recorded days earlier. No one inside NASA would comment, but one message quietly circulated through encrypted channels, allegedly from a Webb technician before his account vanished. They're moving again. For a week, not a single public word came from NASA or ESA. But behind encrypted firewalls, a few researchers were still trading data fragments, desperate to understand what they were seeing. One of them, a systems engineer from the Webb Deep Data Array, noticed something haunting buried in the signal metadata from the 3I Atlas feed. It wasn't static, it was structure. When decoded into audio frequencies, the sequence pulsed in intervals too precise to be random and eerily familiar. The pattern matched an old analog dataset archived under the label Voyager Burst 9, recorded during a faint, unexplained transmission in 1977 when Voyager 1 had crossed the solar boundary. At the time, scientists dismissed it as electromagnetic interference, but this wasn't interference. It was an identical harmonic structure, now coming from the direction of 3I Atlas. Inside Harvard's physics department, Dr. Avi Loeb convened an emergency video session with the European Space Research Council. The leaked image from Mars had been strange enough, but this connection between Voyager and Webb crossed into something unprecedented. Either the same source has returned, Loeb said quietly, or it never left. The revelation spread like wildfire through private research networks. Astrophysicists in France, Chile, and Japan all confirmed identical signal peaks in archive tracking data. Then, as if on cue, the servers went offline. Every mirror link hosting the signal data began displaying the same notice: content restricted, per agency directive 2485C. Within 24 hours, even the NASA Technical Report server was purged of all 3I Atlas-related documents. Internal employees found themselves locked out of databases they'd used daily for years. One insider called it a digital quarantine. Another used a different word, containment. Meanwhile, journalists began contacting former Voyager mission engineers. A retired telemetry analyst, speaking anonymously, claimed that the 1977 signal had carried a mathematical ratio encoded in base 16, a structure too organized to be natural. That same ratio had now reappeared in Webb's feed. If true, it would mean that whatever Voyager encountered beyond the SolarSystem decades ago had somehow found its way back. Back at the European Southern Observatory, a new observation confirmed everyone's worst suspicion. Infrared frames captured just days after the Mars flyby showed faint streaks, multiple, emerging from behind 3I Atlas. They weren't tail fragments, they were departures. Each streak accelerated away at impossible speed, their trajectories diverging toward the inner planets. It was as if something, or several somethings, had just been deployed. Within hours, NASA issued an internal red alert, freezing all public communications until the source and nature of outbound objects are verified. That verification never came. Instead, the official NASA social accounts quietly deleted all 3I Atlas posts, replacing them with unrelated science updates as if nothing had happened. Now, in silence, astronomers around the world are left with a single chilling question. Was Voyager's mysterious signal 48 years ago a message sent to us, or a beacon calling something home? The world's telescopes had fallen silent, but silence doesn't stop curiosity, it only drives it underground. By mid-October 2025, teams from Harvard, ESA, and a private network of astronomers operating under the codename HeliosNet were quietly sharing fragments of orbital data through encrypted servers in Iceland and Japan. Every telescope still aimed at the fading trail of 3I Atlas began picking up the same anomaly, reflected light, perfectly uniform, appearing and vanishing in timed intervals. At first, it seemed like data noise from cosmic rays or solar glare, but when stacked across hundreds of frames, the reflections aligned into a pattern, arcs curving in synchrony behind the comet's path. It wasn't random. The objects, or whatever they were, maintained fixed positions relative to each other, forming an expanding ring roughly 1,800 kilometers across, larger than Mars itself. NASA called it an optical mirage. ESA called it an unresolved diffraction artifact. But independent analysis told a different story. The light intensity wasn't diffused, it pulsed, each pulse following the same 1:3:7 ratio embedded in the Voyager Burst 9 signal. Then came the images. The James Webb Space Telescope, supposedly in safe mode, resumed calibration scans on October 9th. Unofficially, Webb was tracking 3I Atlas again. The comet's tail had transformed, no longer a diffuse plume, but a hexagonal halo, glowing faintly blue in ultraviolet spectrum. Within that shape were 6 symmetrical voids, as if something inside was arranging the dust into structure. At Harvard, Dr. Avi Loeb broke the silence. This isn't ejecta, it's construction. Within 48 hours, Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter detected rising plasma densities along the same path. A faint electromagnetic dome appeared around the region 3I Atlas had crossed. For 6 minutes, Mars's ionosphere brightened. Every magnetometer from ExoMars to Perseverance recorded the surge. Something vast had come alive behind the comet. Then 3 identical radio bursts arrived, triangulated between Mars, ESA's JUICE probe, and the Deep Space Network in Canberra. They weren't from the comet, they were following it. ESA's internal memo used 2 unprecedented words: coordinated emission. Whatever was forming behind 3I Atlas was communicating and preparing for something. By October 12th, high-frequency radar returns from Mars orbit began to bend. Not delay, bend. ESA's and India's orbiters confirmed the same distortion from different angles. Space itself seemed to curve. No debris, no fragments, only a faint shimmer like heat in a vacuum. Interferometers on Earth registered matching phase shifts, mapping a hexagonal distortion field identical to Webb's ultraviolet frame. Governments called it a containment field. Classified alerts described 6 metallic objects, 200 meters wide, rotating in perfect symmetry inside the anomaly. Webb was redirected again, not at the comet but beside it, because 3I Atlas itself had begun to flicker. Its nucleus flashed every 11.6 seconds, releasing bursts equal to small nuclear detonations but without debris. Something inside was activating in cycles. Then came the order. The U.S. Space Force issued an orbital blackout for reconnaissance satellites, citing high-energy interference. Public tracking maps went dark over Mars. Yet independent astronomers caught what no agency would admit: background stars bending inward around a central void, gravitational lensing, where no gravity that strong should exist. Dr. Loeb looked at the data and whispered, "Whatever this is, it's anchoring itself." On October 14th, Mars itself reacted. Every magnetometer spiked for 11 seconds before collapsing. Perseverance recorded a rhythmic pulse echoing the comet's energy cycle, and a raw frame showed a pale blue arc across the Martian sky. Reflection, not aurora. Hours later, the Deep Space Network caught 3 outbound transmissions, encrypted, directed away from Earth, matching the Voyager Burst 9 harmonic. Inside NASA, live feeds cut out, screens flooded white, and when systems rebooted, a new fixed object appeared, stationary, 5,200 kilometers above Mars. Leaked ESA data called it an unclassified fixed orbital mass. Webb then detected a pulse brighter than the Sun, an energy wave expanding across interplanetary space, structured like language. NASA cited electromagnetic interference. But the closed-door Harvard briefing ended with Loeb's final note: "We are witnessing coordination between an interstellar object and a planetary magnetic field. It's not observation anymore, it's contact." And just like that, the world's most powerful space agency went dark. Because whatever 3i Atlas truly is, it's no longer passing through our solar system, it's becoming part of it. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts about what you think 3i Atlas really is.